The death toll is now more than 12, and I think there were 14 more today as hundreds of pagers in Lebanon and Syria exploded yesterday. It was a coordinated attack against Hezbollah using pagers with explosives hidden inside the pagers, set to go off simultaneously. 2,700 injuries reported, along with the 12 dead. There are many victims. Pagers apparently widely used in that region because messages are more difficult to intercept. At least that's what I'm being told, and that's frankly why I'm calling in one of the experts, retired Department of Defense intelligence operative, president of Project Sentinel and the London Center for Policy Research, New York Times bestselling author, and a shady guy. And I mean that in the best of terms. Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer here on the Scott Sand Show. Colonel, always a pleasure to get your insight here on the show.
Oh, Scott, always great to join you. And I appreciate that, because I was once told by a congressional staffer I was the nicest guy that they've ever met that used to kill people for a living. So I'll take it as a compliment.
Right. So let's look at what's happening here. I don't know that I've seen anybody take responsibility, but all the fingers seem to be pointing at Mossad and Israel's intelligence agency. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, and Netanyahu kind of did something on one of the social media things where he kind of made they joked about him being like James Bond. So, yeah, it's clear who did it. And to be very clear, to have done this operation, it took a great deal of detailed intelligence, a comprehensive understanding of the command and control structure of Hezbollah and Iran, a comprehensive and detailed understanding of supply chains or manufacturing processes, and obviously a grasp of very sophisticated, technology relating to pagers, the functioning of pagers, software, and also the walkie-talkies they used. And all of this had to be put together in a campaign plan to be executed on call. And I'm not going to lie to you. I can't tell you all the details. I mean, we perfected some of this stuff back in the late 90s, but I've never seen it used in such a comprehensive and declarative statement of threat to Hezbollah, to the Iranians, as the Israelis have done in these 2 days of operational use of what we call weaponized technology.
So when this story broke, you weren't surprised that someone was capable of doing this at all. If we've had that technology available since the 90s, I mean, this is, to me, something that you would see in a movie, a coordinated attack with explosives and pagers, more than 2,000 of them going off simultaneously. That's something you would write about in a fiction book. That's something you would come up with in one of your novels, perhaps.
Well, as a matter of fact, we did include this in my second book, The Last Line. The DOD, believe it or not, allowed me to put some hint that we could do this in there. If you go back and look, we actually, in The Last Line, we go after, and I don't want to give the entire book away in case you want to read it, but at one point during the plot, we're going after a dozen drug dealers. And we do it in such a way to take them all out simultaneously using something very similar to this. So, yes, we've contemplated it. I've actually got it cleared to talk about. So I'll restrict myself to what DOD cleared regarding what we can do. And essentially, anytime you have a network, you have people who use that network, and they obviously have a community of interest. We can use link analysis and other basic intelligence tools to link them together, and then obviously with the appropriate understanding and access to the actual device, you can do things to that device which, effectively make it into a weapon. It's weaponized technology is not new, Scott. It's just I don't think people fully understand the scope of what's capable. The Israelis kind of put it all out there in a very public way.
But the CIA couldn't blow up my iPhone right now if they wanted to. Assuming there's no explosive in my iPhone, you can't just blow it up. This is something that would have been years in the planning, going all the way back to the manufacturing of these pagers and the retail sales of the pagers, I guess, to make sure that Hezbollah members were getting the explosive pagers and not some random person who was just trying to do a drug deal or something. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know who uses pagers now.
Well, they use pagers because you can't follow them. Pagers are a technology which basically receives messages but doesn't transmit back. That's why they thought it was safer. So basically what it is, it's a central site, a central antenna sends out a signal to the device. The device figures out if it's for that device. It downloads it, and that's when you read it. But it doesn't transmit back. That's why they were using them. It's an old technology, but very effective. What they didn't count on is the point you just made, is the fact that someone in the process of being moved from the point of manufacture to the point of being given out to the individual, the Israelis in some form got access to them and added the explosive. I have theories on this. I don't want to get into specifics based on some of the things I know we used to do. But I can tell you that explosives are not routinely in phones, that's for sure. But secondly, they don't have to necessarily reach out and have physical access to the phone. There are software fixes that can be done. But no, you're not going to have a phone randomly blow up, because obviously these things were actually weaponized with some level of explosive in them. That's why they were so devastating when they were activated.
This is why his Twitter handle is T-Spooky, because he's got inside knowledge of the fact that we have these kind of capabilities. Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer here on the Scott Sand Show. How much other advanced technology in covert warfare is out there that we have just not seen deployed yet? And I know you can't get into specifics, but this I think took a lot of people by surprise that we were capable of doing it. There's probably a bunch of other things that we don't know the CIA, that DOD has capabilities of doing.
We may or may not have been doing this on a routine basis since the late 90s, just saying. Just because it is something that we consider very sensitive, there's been a choice to never use it on a mass level. This is a part of warfare, Scott. It's the technical term. The category is information operations, information warfare. So this has been part of it for decades. My unit, Stratus Ivy, this is the congressional tribute to me. I'm not giving up anything that's not already been out there. My unit, Stratus Ivy, was engaged in examining options for use of weaponized technology. So this is, again, this goes back a long time. What is different now is that you're seeing, this used in a way that intimidated an entire terrorist organization, and frankly, probably Iran as well. That's the difference. And there are other things out there that are even more complex than this, that can be used very passively. Remember, many of the things that the people want to use on phones, Scott, is passive on information. To use it in this offensive manner, this was an offensive information operation because obviously it was observable. The effects were observable. This requires some level of understanding that you're going to lose a great deal of intelligence. Now, obviously, the Israelis are going to lose intelligence because people that they're tracking are going to be reluctant to get on anything electronic. So I suspect they've already mapped out what Hezbollah is going to do next. And I'm going on the record here saying they're going to probably do something else before the end of the week. You'll see one other event related to the previous two that'll be related to going after Hezbollah and the Iranians.
Yeah, there was obviously a decision made at some level to activate the pager bombs, if that's the right thing to call them, on a mass scale. I had read one report that perhaps some of the Hezbollah leaders were becoming nervous about using the pagers and may have been in the process of ditching the pagers. So it kind of became a use it or lose it weapon, which Israel apparently decided to deploy. And today, the pagers were followed up by walkie-talkies. But do you think there's a third related attack that could be coming?
Oh, I do. Look, there's mysteries about how they took out the Hamas leader incidental to the inauguration of the Iranian president about 2 months ago. There's been theories, but that guy died in his hotel room, and they don't know how it happened. Just saying. So technology is ambivalent to the user, and it is only limited by the imagination of those who have it. So just saying, there's a lot of imagination out there, Scott. If you sit down and try to noodle this through, you have a lot of things that have never been necessarily weaponized that I think people like me, not saying that we've done it, but I'm saying that people like me have sat down and thought through what can be done, what is within the realm of possibility. So I think there's more things possible that the Israelis can still do.
So what are
if they so choose?
What are the implications, Colonel, of this mass deployment of this technology by Mossad, by Israel, in terms of potential retaliation against Israel against the United States by a nation like Iran or Russia, North Korea, China, which obviously also have this technology probably as well that they could use if they wanted to. I'm not saying that Hamas or Hezbollah or Al-Qaeda has this technology en masse, but as a proxy of Iran certainly probably has that capability to some degree.
Yes, the answer is yes. Look, as I mentioned, technology is ambivalent to the user. You cannot. This is one of the grand ironies of the work we used to do. You can't classify physics. Physics and engineering is like people can figure it out on their own. So, yes, the answer is other nations can figure this out. The Chinese, I believe, have deployed a very effective information operation tool called TikTok. And I think they any phone that has TikTok on it, that phone's compromised to Chinese intelligence. It is what it is. So I think that, again, people who understand the technology are only limited by their imagination on how to use it, either through by collection or by gaining access to command and control or networks for purposes of exploitation. So it's something that we are aware of. I can tell you that NSA spends a lot of time looking at how to counter these sorts of things, since obviously if we're developing things like this, we look at how to stop them. But to your point, once you figure it out, it's fairly easy to stop. Like the Hezbollah guys are going to be reluctant to buy, pagers for a while. They're going to go to different things. Maybe they'll go to Post-it notes for a while and not do much. But But obviously there is a cost. Like, okay, this is dramatic. If everybody's taken notice, it actually stopped Hezbollah from firing rockets for a couple of days. But this doesn't stop them completely. It just delays them and makes them hesitant. And so that's why I'm saying when we plan these sorts of things, if we did, Scott, I'm not saying we did, I'm saying if we did, we always plan to do something else in addition to an information operation. That's why I'm saying I think something else is coming from the Israelis. So,
and we certainly could debate whether or not an action like this on the part of Israel will actually serve as a recruitment tool for Hezbollah in Lebanon and Syria as well. But that's a conversation for another day. I feel like you sharing this information with me means you're going to have to come and kill me as it is. I feel like I now know stuff I shouldn't know, and that's why I love.
Well, you and all of Toledo. Yeah, I'm going to have to make sure that they put a B-61 on Toledo later today. So there you go.
Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, retired DoD intelligence operative, president of the London Center for Policy Research and Project Sentinel. Just to wrap things up quickly, Colonel, and you can find him on Twitter, on X. Look up T-Spooky with underscores. Your thoughts on this second assassination attempt against Donald Trump this past weekend?
Well, holy cow. I mean, come on. This is getting ridiculous. Speaking of technology, my son, who's 17, could have taken his drone and done a reconnaissance of the golf course to make sure that nobody was out there. To think that the protective bubble that's moving with the president was what spotted it the last second is literally insane. So, look, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, like, come on. There's, they keep saying they want more money, more resources. DHS, Secret Service part of DHS, they have enormous resources. You can take things from other part of DHS or, put elements of Secret Service who are not necessarily busy with some of the other 31 protectees and enhance Trump's detail. This is a political choice that they're not doing it. And I think Trump even made that comment yesterday to that effect. It's like, yeah, they're purposely doing this now.
You're
regarding the individual.
You're familiar with the DHS workings. Is the Secret Service agency, should they be taken back out of DHS and either put under Treasury or a different department and perhaps relieve Secret Service of some of their investigatory responsibilities like counterfeiting and give that to the FBI or somebody else?
I think that they should be pulled out, yes. I mean, a number of organizations got stuck under DHS to include FEMA. FEMA used to be a very effective organization. They were essentially made like any other normal, ineffective bureaucracy when they were stuck under DHS. So, yeah, I think you need to rethink the whole DHS structure and FBI, because FBI is kind of dropping the ball because this guy was on the FBI radar. I mean, let's be honest here. This guy has 4 felony convictions here in North Carolina, one of which was a weapon of mass destruction, a machine gun charge. I mean, these are convictions, and he had he had a dozen misdemeanors, and has never spent a day in jail. What does that tell you about him? Tells me that he's probably a Fed. He's probably someone who has been working for the federal government, which opens another whole door of conversation about what they knew about it. So just saying.
And you know, I'm not a conspiracy guy, but there's a whole lot of smoke pointing to a fire somewhere over the last few weeks. And I would agree. I mean, Homeland Security seemed like a great idea after 9/11 to try to tear down some silos and share more information, but it's created a ginormous bureaucracy now, and we're seeing the failing effects of that.
Yep, absolutely. And again, I think they're not done. Dan Bongino said they were going to try again. They did. Scott, I don't think this is done. I mean, the more Harris drops in the polls, becomes more unpopular, the more desperate they're going to become. And unfortunately, I think we've all recommended to President Trump's team that they do way more to protect him as things get closer to November.
Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer on the Scott Sands Show. Find him on social media at GSpooky. Colonel, always great to have you on.
Yeah, thanks, Scott.